August 6, 1945, a city in Japan is hit with a weapon of mass destruction. 3 days later, the same thing happens in another nearby city. The US has just demonstrated their nuclear capability with a powerful, deadly weapon known as the atomic bomb. A couple years later, the top-secret project for the construction of the bomb is revealed to the public. This plan is known as the Manhattan Project. August 2nd, 1939, Patchogue, New York. Theoretical physicist Albert Einstein had met up with Leo Szilard, who was also a fellow scientist. These two had written a letter to Franklin D. Roosevelt informing of a horrible, recent discovery. The Nazis were building a bomb. Because of their urging for action, FDR decided to establish a committee to study the possibility of making such a weapon. But he might have not done it if Einstein was alone. Szilard was the reason that FDR took action. When Einstein first found out about the Nazis' plan, he knew that due to his lack of recognition at the time, the president most likely wouldn't listen to him. Instead, he looked towards Hungarian physicist Leo Szilard, who was very popular unlike Einstein. Thanks to their collaboration, the letter they sent to FDR had marked the beginning of what is known as the Manhattan Project. From the time FDR received the letter in 1939 to the end of World War II in 1945, the US had put in a large amount of work and spent a large amount of money on researching and building the atomic bomb. This expensive, difficult process was called the Manhattan Project. The Manhattan Project was one of the most secret plans in the history of humanity. It was so secretive that most of the scientists working on the project didn't even know what its purpose was. Keeping 120,000 people quiet would be impossible, so only those in superior positions were informed, including those who were in charge of the bomb's construction and research locations. Robert J. Oppenheimer, otherwise known as the father of the atomic bomb, was in charge of the project. However, he was only responsible for leading the other scientists through the design and development of the weapon. U.S. Brigadier General Leslie Groves was the man who oversaw the entire project, also playing an important role in its process of construction. The result of this tedious process gave the U.S. the weapon they needed to win World War II. There was only one step left before using it, however, and it was to test and record its power. July 16th, 1945, a huge flash of light shines across the New Mexico desert, several miles from Los Alamos. Oppenheimer and the other scientists have now detonated the atomic bomb and have witnessed its terrifying power. The first atomic bomb was detonated in Coronado del Muerto, which was about 210 miles south of Los Alamos. Detonation of the weapon was scheduled for 4 a.m. It was delayed for almost 2 hours due to bad weather. The storm hadn't cleared, the test would have been moved to a much later time and date. Prior to the test, efforts for evacuation were sent to a fraction of those who were in range of the bomb's radioactive range as an attempt to warn them of it. Up to a month after the test, signs like spikes in infant deaths and cancer showed up more in the state of New Mexico. Civilians that were thought to be far enough from the test had suffered from it, along with animals who experienced blood loss, hair loss, and radiation burns. Not too long after the bomb's power had been demonstrated through Hiroshima and Nagasaki, a large problem emerged as the U.S. government received a shocking new piece of information. The Soviets had a bomb of their own, which was a hydrogen bomb. A reporter named Klaus Fuchs managed to get into the Manhattan Project, getting highly classified information as well as details for the bomb and smuggling it to Soviet intelligence agents. Using this newfound information, the USSR began to climb its way up the ranks, and on August 29, 1949, the first hydrogen bomb was detonated in northeastern Kazakhstan. The bomb was named RDS-1, or First Lightning. Thanks to this new technology, the Soviet Union rose to be a second superpower. The US felt threatened by their sudden technological advances, so in response, we developed and fielded our own hydrogen bomb. Other things that motivated our actions were the constant military and political provocations by the USSR. This tension was during the state of hostility between both countries in the Cold War. Even after the Cold War, many potential threats of war and nuclear conflict between nations are still present and maybe even growing. The nuclear weapons manufactured from the Manhattan Project have paved the way in the future for the U.S. technology-wise, although there's a chance that the $2 billion and the thousands of people employed weren't worth it at all. During the development of the atomic bomb, a theory that struck fear in the minds of a few of the scientists had been revealed. There was a possibility that the intense heat released from the bomb could set off an unstoppable chain reaction in which would fuse nitrogen atoms in the air, setting the atmosphere on fire. This theory was eventually proven to have near zero chances of happening, although as historians and other scientists began to study the effects of the Manhattan Project later and later on, they realized that a chain reaction had already been started, which they believe will eventually destroy the world. This was a competition for nuclear superiority amongst countries around the globe.